Hello everybody, I'm back at it again with my Ariana Grande ponytail. What's up, bushes? I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but I love the Comedy Central series called Drunk History. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the show, it's a Comedy Central series where they'll get a comedian drunk and they will struggle to recount some sort of historical event or historical figure, and they take that narration and have a bunch of other comedians reenact it while lip syncing the narration of the drunk comedian. It's so fucking hilarious. Like, it's educational, but in a really goofy, silly way. Now, I love history, but what I love even more than history is mythology, particularly Greek and Roman mythology. I don't know where this love originated from. Since it doesn't exist, I thought I would make it exist by having my own version of drunk history, but instead of drunk history, it's gonna be drunk mythology. So I'm getting drunk and tell a particular story about some Greek god. I do want to put a disclaimer out. Please drink responsibly and safely. I am in a safe environment. I'm supervised. So please, please, please keep that in mind. Today, I'm going to talk about the Greek god Zeus and how he came to be king of the gods. But first, I'm gonna get drunk. Oh, look at my nails. Ooh, I did winged eyeliner. Does it look bad? But when I open my eyes, you can't tell the difference. But when I close my eyes, you're like, the fuck is that? But when I open it, you're like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. Oh, everybody, I feel funny. It's kind of hard to sit in this chair here. Today we're gonna talk about Zeus and how he became king of the gods. Zeus just didn't pop into existence. He wasn't just poof, king of the gods. No, he was born. And he had a daddy. And even his daddy had a daddy. So like the order of operations here was there was Uranus, and I'm gonna pronounce it Uranus because Uranus just I'm a grown adult. Oh my god, this is not that funny. Okay. Uranus and Gaia made a baby, and that baby was Cronus. Cronus was Zeus's daddy-o, and Cronus, he was ruthless. He actually overthrew his own daddy to become king of the gods. And even though he was ruthless, he was actually apparently not that bad of a ruler. He ruled humanity through the golden age, where like there was no crime, there was no need for law and order because everything was just paradise and perfect. People were living a great life. So despite the fact that he overthrew his own daddy and just was apparently an asshole and married his sister, right? Because that's not weird. He actually wasn't that bad of a ruler. But because he was an asshole and that he overthrew his own daddy, he was paranoid that his own offspring would overthrow him, which, you know, karma's a bitch. That's not so unreasonable of a fear to have. So what was his solution for this, might you ask? Well, obviously. Every time his wife Rhea came with child and went to term and labor, when the baby was born, he would eat them. You heard me. He'd fucking eat them. The birthing table and the dinner table were the same thing. As soon as Rhea would pop a baby, he'd be there with his knife and fork being like, all right, we're gonna eat tonight. He'd actually swallow them whole. And because you can't just kill a god, they apparently were living inside him. Yes, they were just in him. And so because you can't just kill a god like that, they were growing up inside their dad's belly. It's really fucked up. This is where the stories diverge a bit. Most accounts say that Uranus and Gaia were like, listen, you gotta outsmart him. Like, what's your plan here? And whether it was their idea or Rhea's idea, there was a plan. She went up to her bestie, who happened to be a nymph, possibly a nympho. I don't know. I don't judge. I'm not gonna slut shame a nymph. She went up to her nymph buddy and was like, hey, I got a plan. Like, I'm fucking tired of like getting preggers and then giving birth, giving up my womanly figure for this asshole to eat our children. Like, it's fucked up. All right, it's bad enough for brother and sister. this is just all kinds of wrong. So she's like, all right, hear me out. All right, I got a great idea. He's totally gonna be none the wiser. And then Nymph was like, all right, yeah, let me in on the secret. She's like, when my next baby is born, we're gonna swap it out. She's like, oh, with another baby? And she's like, no, I'm tired of infanticide. No, bitch, we're gonna replace our baby with a rock. And the Nymph was like, what now? And she was like, yeah, we're gonna replace the baby with a rock, but we'll wrap it up in like swaddling cloth. And then give it to Cronus and be like, here's your child. He'll be none the wiser. He'll swallow it whole and move out with his day. He's a very busy man. He won't know. And the Nymph was like, you're a fucking genius. Yeah, that was the idea. I wish I was kidding. I really think. Oh, I felt that. I felt it all the way down. It was like liquid fire. So she was pregnant. She went to labor. She had her baby. And before Cronus was none the wiser, she got her nympho friend here to swap out the baby boy, whose name was Zeus. She swapped it with a rock, quickly wrapped it in swaddling. It was like, here, Cronus, here's your baby boy. Enjoy. Not only was this a stupid fucking plan, he fell for it, and he fucking swallowed the rock and swaddling whole. None the wiser. Like, could you imagine if these other like grown-ass babies are like in the belly and all of a sudden they're like, oh, here's our new sibling, and then a fucking rock comes down. You're like, the fuck, Dad? So Nympho Friendo, she takes baby Zeus and takes him to the Isle of Crete, and they raised Zeus. A bunch of nymphs, and there were some random soldiers there. I don't remember their name, some weird Greek name, but they were soldiers. And every time Zeus cried, they'd like loudly clatter their armor and shields and be like, we're soldiers! To like drown out the cry of baby Zeus. It's not like there's other babies that happen to live on the planet that would cry. Apparently Zeus was special. He had an extra loud cry. I don't know. Another version of the story is that he grew up tied suspended from a rope between the tree and the ground so that Cronus couldn't magically sense him? I don't know. My sober brain couldn't wrap myself around that, let alone drunk Julia. Either way, he grew up on the island of Crete, suckling from the tits of goats and being raised by nymphs, which probably explains why when he was an adult, he couldn't keep his dick in his pants. There's plenty of other stories about that later. So he grew up to be this big, strong, godly man, and when he was of age, he was told, okay, you're old enough, you're gonna overthrow your daddy now. And he was like, all right, yeah, that's cool. Push comes to shove, he somehow gets near his dad, Cronus, and somehow feeds his dad this elixir that has him regurgitate all of the babies he's swallowed over the years. I don't know how he convinced Cronus to do that. Like, being the king of the gods, you think all these people would be trying to assassinate you and kill you. Like, why would you accept this, like, this drink from a rando? Like, hey, I'm your new cup boy. Here's your new wine. It's totally not gonna make you sick. I don't know. I don't remember why. Maybe there was a way he tricked Cronus into drinking this elixir. I don't fucking know. The point of the story is he puked up all the kids, and they're grown-ass godly adults. Like, honestly, I'm trying to picture what Cronus looked like. Like, he must have been fucking Jabba the Hutt by this point. Or maybe he was just really, really big, so it didn't matter. I don't know. He was technically a Titan, and Titans are big, right? More sippy. There's a hair. Like, probably my grande hair. It's better than having venti hair. It's just too much. So, whatever method or reason, these children are regurgitated from Cronus. Out pop Zeus's older siblings. You got Hades, Poseidon, Hera, Demeter, and I think Hestia. They're grown-ass adults. They're like pissed off. Their childhood was taken away from them because they grew up in their father's fucking guts. Like, it's bad enough they were the offspring of siblings. The fuck is this? What is that? Oh, it's the light. It's the sun setting. Let me change my blinds real quick. Alright, I think the Orby thingies are gone now. Woo! So, this huge ass war ensued. It was the Titans versus the Olympians. gods. And there was like some weird word for it, like titanometry, or I don't remember. There was some fancy Greek ass term for it. It was more of the Titans. Titans versus Olympians. It's like the fucking World Cup. Take your side. When it boiled down to it, the Olympians overthrew the Titans. And again, because you can't just kill a god, they had to do something with Cronus and his goonies. So Zeus and his siblings and bros locked up Cronus and his goonies in Tartarus, which is like the deepest bowels of the underworld. And in some versions, they stayed there for eternity. Other versions, Zeus was like, yeah, Dad, you can come out, you can rule Elysium, which is basically paradise. Like, no hard feelings, right? Whatever the case is, the Olympians won. And there was much rejoicing. So you got all these new generation of gods, they're Olympians, they live on Mount Olympus because they're original with names. They began to rule the world. Side note, Olympus is an actual fucking mountain in Greece. I ever wonder if like in the times where people actually worshipped these gods, if they were ever like, I want to fucking climb that mountain and meet the gods myself. So they climb Mount Olympus and there's nothing there. I don't know, these are the things I think about. Once it was established that Cronus and his goonies were locked up in Tartarus, the new gods were like, all right, we have to establish order again. Who's gonna rule this shit? Ugh. The more drunk I get, the more my body wants to reject this. Like I mentioned, you got Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Demeter, Hera, and Hestia. So just so y'all know, Demeter, Hestia, and Hera were females. So the only brothers there was Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. So the three of them had to duke out who is gonna be king of the gods then. Zeus was technically the youngest, so based on like birth order, he shouldn't be king of the gods, but he was also the one who overthrew Cronus. Instead of just warring with each other and ensuing all this fucking chaos, straws. That's like the ancient Greek way of rock, paper, scissors. So whoever gets to be king of the gods / sky, king of the ocean, and king of the underworld. Honestly, all three sound like a good deal. I mean, king of the gods and sky, that's like top dog. But ocean and underworld sounds equally badass, right? Wrong. Actually being god of the underworld was like super faux pas. Just some insight into ancient Greek culture. Being god of the underworld was actually not a cool thing, because not only were you feared as being god of the dead, you had no like holidays in your honor, no festivals, no offerings, no statues or temples erected in your honor. It was even like bad luck to say your name. So honestly, even though it's sure an equally important job, you didn't want to be king of the underworld. And on top of that, the gods would also ostracize you. You would no longer be an Olympian. You'd no longer be able to come to Mount Olympus. You'd be a workaholic because it's the ancient times. People are always dying of disease and famine and God knows what else. So you would be working forever, no breaks, no PTO, no vacation time or sick days, and you couldn't even like party it up with your Olympian siblings. So honestly, being like god of the underworld was like bottom tier. You did not want to be god of the underworld, even though you were super important and vital to the way of life. You wouldn't be worshipped and your own peers would treat you like shit. Like it fucking sucked. So they were like, all right, we need to draw straws for this, because obviously king of the gods and sky, that's the best option. King of the sea, that's still pretty badass. Not as cool, but still badass. And then god of the underworld. This is where some versions of the story deviate. Some versions say it was an honest drawing of straws. Other stories say that Zeus and Poseidon kind of teamed up against Hades here. Whatever the way, Zeus drew the biggest straw. He got to be king of the gods. Second place was Poseidon. He became king of the sea. And then Hades. Poor Hades got to forever be eternally the underdog as king of the underworld. He literally drew the short straw. Is that where that phrase even comes from? Did I just figure that out? Oh my god. Either way, whether Hades was cheated or fairly lost, I still feel bad for him, because like, that fucking sucks. Nobody even wants to say her name. There is a perk to being god of the underworld though, because everything's like underground and shit. You get to be king of all the riches and gold and metals and precious gems, so you rich as fuck. So yeah, he gets to be at least the richest god there is, but there's no one to share his wealth with. Or is there? Oh, that's a story for another time. There you have it. Zeus got to be king of the gods, and following family tradition, he married his own sister, Hera, who became goddess of marriage, which is hilarious because Zeus was such a fucking asshole, constantly cheating on her and sleeping with every nymph and dryad, and I think that's how you say it, dryad? Drade? Dried? Let me know in the comments. I don't know. I don't remember. That's the first episode of Drunk Mythology. Let me know in the comments down below if there's any other stories you want me to narrate. I don't know why